Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the celebration. We know you could be anywhere, so the fact that you are here with us today, we absolutely appreciate that. As you can see, hear, sense, or feel, I'm not alone. I have a special and brilliant guest with us today. She goes by the name of Charlene E. Green, also known as Hustle Diva. How's it going, Charlene?
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What's a way we could intro you to our wonderful folks listening today?
I am a writer. That's where everything starts. From there, I am a poet, spoken word artist. I'm also an editor and literary consultant, and I'm also a life consultant. And it may seem like those things are not related, but everything that I do stems from my writing. So that's what makes it work.
Yeah, I heard you say I'm a writer and then a poet. So what's the difference?
So pretty much nothing that I do gets done without the writing. So obviously I write the poems before I speak the poem, before I, recite the poems. As far as my editing, because I'm a writer and I'm also versed in many genres, that works for me. The writing, I write self-help, I write poetry, I write screenplays, I write novels. So I'm fortunate that I am versed in so many ways in the writing industry. So that helps me be a better editor. And then for life consulting, that actually came from 3 of my self-help books. So everything that I do that's outside of writing actually goes right back to the writing. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense.
Yeah.
How do you decide what to write? When you sit down, you have a pen and a pad, or you have fingers ready to type, how do you decide which form of expression to do?
I think it's a spiritual move because sometimes I'm in poetry mode. Sometimes I'm in novel mode. Sometimes it's self-help. And so it just depends on what's happening in my environment, what I'm looking at, what I'm going through. And then when it's time to write, so like maybe I'll write a blog based like a self-help blog, because I have that. Based on something that I experienced. So I'm in self-help mode right there. But then also my poetry is largely self-help. So it just depends on whatever my spirit tells me to do at the moment. And I don't question it. I just do what it tells me to do. So it's not like I go, well, I want to write a blog post today, but I should write this poem instead. It's just, I just go whatever direction my spirit takes me.
What was the journey to arrive at a place where you can hear your spirit and trust it and then act upon the guidance that it gives you?
A lot of trial and error. So kind of, actually trusting your spirit is a choice. It may not seem like it is, but you kind of have to decide that you're going to trust your gut. I mean, we all have those moments where our intuition tells us stuff. And what happens is we oftentimes don't listen. Then we go do something else. And then we go, oh man, like I should have, dang it. It's that thing. And so when you decide, okay, I'm going to listen to what my spirit tells me to do, and I'm going to actually do it. Then you kind of get into a practice. It's a practice. It's not, you don't just know how to do it, because it's not something that we are taught from an early age. We are taught to listen to other people. And so, of course, obviously as kids, we're always listening to all the other adults, and we're listening to our peers and, our other family members. And so there's this gap between like what our spirit is saying and what other people are saying. And so many times we go through life and we just listen to other people. And that is how you get away from being able to listen to your spirit and do the things that you really need to do for yourself and be comfortable with it. So it's a practice. It's not something that you just jump into. You have to really make a decision to listen and act on what your spirit tells you to do, and be trustworthy that like you're going to be okay, and you don't, that these other opinions are these other opinions, but you are the center. And so it's not easy. It's not. You have to do it like every day. It's an everyday thing.
And what brought you to the place where you decided to make that choice intentionally?
Probably, I think it was gradual. I think spending a lot of time alone, that's the other thing, is that when you spend a lot of time alone, you get a chance to listen to yourself. And when I moved to LA in 2003, that was the first time that I was able to really live alone. And I knew that I needed it, but I didn't realize how much I needed it until I actually got in the situation and it was quiet and it was just me. And I really started to treasure my alone time. And so there was a time before that where I was always around my friends and always, out and about and doing things. And there wasn't really a lot of alone time. And that's important because unless you spend time alone with yourself, just by yourself, then you still can't connect with your spirit. If you're always with people, if you're always, conversing and not really taking time to spend time alone and get to know yourself, then you miss that mark. You can't really connect with your spirit unless you spend time alone, a lot of time alone.
And so when you were alone, is that when you started to define poetry and self-help and that kind of stuff, or was that already there?
I wrote some poetry as a teenager, not a whole lot. And I've always written. So again, it's always been about the writing. And I always wrote short stories and I wrote some poetry, and it was but back then I wasn't really thinking of it as a career. It was just something I did. And it wasn't until I moved here around 2004. So about a year or so after I moved here, that's when I started going through some old stuff, and I found a couple of those poems, and I was like, oh, wow. So like I kind of forgot. And so it was a moment where I was remembering that I had this gift to write poetry too. And so it seemed like as soon as I discovered those things, the poetry it just flowed. It just flowed with such ease. And then I realized, oh, wow. So I'm more than just one type of writer. I'm more than just a novelist. I can do poetry. And then so self-help came into the picture around 2007 or so, because I had started my editing business and I was dealing with I was interning for an independent publisher, and we were having discussions about the things that we see and experience in the literary world, and especially within editing. And I was getting frustrated. And so I decided I should write, kind of like a little booklet, to give people some insight about how to move through the editing process. And so that was actually the start of the self-help, although that was more informational. From there, again, it was like every time I wrote something different than what I was used to, I realized, oh, so I can do that too. And so I put this little book out in 2007 called You and Your Editor. And in 2009, I was having a conversation online with another poet, I think. Yes. And she made a comment about wanting to start a business someday. And we got into this really long conversation about how, you got to do it now. And so we had like a back and forth through the email. And somewhere in there, I realized that this entire conversation could be a book. And so, because the information that I was sharing with her and her responses to the information were book worthy. And so from that moment, I was like, man, this needs to be a book. And so that's kind of how things happen. It's not something I plan. It's just something happens and I go, I need to write about that. And so that's how the self-help came into the picture. I wrote, in 2009, I wrote this book called You Are What You Say You Are, Claiming Your Life's Mission and Living Your Dream. Ooh. And that book was based on that long email conversation with this woman. And so then I realized I could do self-help. And so from there, it's just, I kept writing poetry. I kept writing novels. I kept, writing more self-help. And the poetry part didn't turn into self-help until around 2010. Probably 2010 was when I realized I was writing poetry that had to do with self-help. But I practiced Buddhism. And so I've been practicing Buddhism for 32 years. And so it was kind of a natural progress for me, because the core of my Buddhist practice is, human revolution. It's basically your inner transformation. So that's what I know. That's why it came to me so easily, because it's something I practice on a daily basis. So it wasn't anything I had to research per se, because I lived it. So it was just a matter of putting the words down, on paper. Yeah.
That's powerful. And I appreciate you giving insight into the journey and really kind of detailing out for us the process of really just listening and paying attention to life and then seeing the aha moment and acting on it. So I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah, thank you.
And you described the poetry so well that I would love to hear one of your poems. Would you mind sharing with us one of your poems?
Sure. So since we're talking about the journey and kind of like finding what it is that you do. So I in 2009, I wrote this poem called Homage, and it was based on kind of a moment that I was having where I was kind of freaking out because I didn't feel like I had been able to write the poetry like I really wanted to. Like, I felt like there was a gap, and I started getting afraid that I wasn't going to be able to write anymore, because I was, it wasn't something I knew for sure was all the way in me, if that makes sense. Like, I thought maybe it's just this one little bit of poetry that I'm going to write in my life, and I'm not going to be able to write anymore, because I just wasn't able to write. And so this poem came to me, and it kind of cleared everything up. So it's called Homage. They ask me over and over how I do it, where it comes from, and if I can teach them. I give the proverbial answer, I get it from my mama. But that statement lacks accuracy, since my mama, although granted the same ability, doesn't do it exactly like I do. Really, I get it from deep within the recesses of my spirit, where upon my conception, I was injected with the seed of this gift that, undetected at first, was blooming within me all along. Yes, I said gift. I acknowledged it, owned it, embraced it, because to not do so would make me unappreciative and make me that much less able to tap into my souvenirs beauty and share it with those around me, many of whom have the same aptitude, but it's still wrapped in a pretty little box inside their soul, undetected, as was mine for a spell, possibly never to be revealed without the proper stimulation. And who am I to believe that I cannot motivate another to connect with and release his or her innate mutual talent? This world feeds off inspiration. Sometimes I worry about when the next creation will leak from my brain's remarkable database and drain through my hands, which await that magical moment, jonesing like two pitiful strung out fiends for the similes and verses to flow to the tips of my fingers and discharge their potent substance, each swift stroke across the keyboard supplying me with that junky high. But now I realize that I shouldn't vex, ever, because the capability that is implanted within us once sperm and egg merge is automatically part of our DNA. It is our filament. And from the moment we enter this life with our endowment to the day of our homegoing, it is ours to keep, whether we use it or not. And it makes perfect sense to me now. A true gift is not taught. Skills are taught. But an authentic knack streams freely from within, effortlessly without thought, and must be honed routinely to maintain its vitality and freshness and to stave off dormancy. Pay close attention to that thing you do so well, not having had an ounce of training, and you will find in your everyday actions your gift is shining through. But what's unfortunate is that you don't see it as a bequest. You dismiss it as just something you do, never really giving thought to how it might change someone else's life should you actually attend to and nurture it the way it deserves. Can I teach you? Yes. I can provide you with dexterity, show you what it takes to piece the English language's complexities together in order to stir and titillate the mind and heart of another. I can explain the process, my process, and offer you the tools to build your methods. But what I cannot give you is natural ability in this realm, because you have your own, in a different one, in a place you have not yet found, inside a part of you that is waiting for the latch to be lifted, doors to be flung wide open and be set free for you to bask in it, play with it, perfect it, use it to effect change. Then you too will be asked, how do you do it? Where does it come from? And can you teach me? What is your gift? Find it, honor it, share it. And that's homage.
Yes.
I got the snap.
That was powerful.
Thank you.
I appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you.
What does it feel like to recite a poem like that?
I think it's probably my favorite thing out of all that I do, which is interesting because when I started this journey, I thought that I was just a novelist, and that was going to be it. And then when I rediscovered the poetry, and then when I started reciting the poems, I realized how powerful it was and how good for my soul it was. So there's this thing that happens when you write the poem, but then when you say the words, it's a whole other feeling. So I think that it's probably my favorite. My favorite feeling is when I'm reciting a poem like that.
Especially since the words are so uplifting and joyful and inspiring that I could just imagine that you have to, as the person, originating them, giving them vibration, that you feel an aspect of that as you're saying it. Yeah.
It's great. It's a great feeling.
How, in the poem, you talked about gifts and nurturing gifts. How does one give sustenance to their gifts?
I think the first step is, again, you have to be paying attention. See, this is, again, it goes back to getting to know yourself, paying attention to yourself and the things that you do and what those things mean to you. Because as I said, I've always been a writer. I've been writing since childhood, but I wasn't paying attention to it. That's what I was talking about in the poem. I dismissed it as just something I did. It wasn't anything I was thinking about doing as a career, or I knew I enjoyed it and I knew I was good at it, but that's as far as it went. And so when we're talking about finding your gifts or, discovering what it is that you're here in this life to do, what I tell people is that you're probably already doing it and you're not paying attention, because there are people that are looking outside of what they already are doing and what they already have for this thing. And most of the time you're already doing it every day in some type of way, but because you're not paying attention, you're taking it for granted, basically. You can't even see that it is your thing. And so that's why, again, spending time with yourself and listening to what's happening in your head and your heart, and paying attention to what your daily activities and the things that you do, what those things mean to you, and how they affect other people. That is kind of what I would say is the first step to even getting a handle on what are my gifts and what am I here to do? How am I going to use these gifts to affect the world?
For the folks listening who are saying, I agree, I'm buying into this, Charlene, I'm with you. And I know I'm supposed to look within myself. I know I'm supposed to be paying attention, but I just nothing's happening. What advice do you have, or maybe what are some ways it felt like for you when you realized, there it is, or what can you share with that person?
I think that at some point, well, what happens is, again, you have people that are doing jobs and working in fields because somebody said they should, or it's a family thing. They're following in footsteps, or there are a lot of reasons why people are not doing the real thing that they're here to do. And a lot of it has to do with, again, listening to other people, being influenced by other people's opinions, people telling them, like maybe someone thinks they know what they're here to do, and then maybe they say something about it, and then someone says, "Oh no, you can't do that. Like you have to go to school for, you have to do all these things. You can't do that. You should just do this, right?" Mm-hmm. And this is what happens all day. People are telling other people what they should be doing in this life, and that's why people are unhappy, because they're not tuning into their spirit. They're not paying attention to their own life in such a way that they can discern what is really good for them, what makes them feel good. So there, like I said, there are people following footsteps, and they're doing it because their parents did this work, or, it's the easy route or whatever. And it's not the thing that makes them feel good. Maybe it makes them a lot of money, and maybe it brings them security, but it doesn't make them feel good. And when you do your thing, whatever your thing is, you're supposed to feel good. So if you're working in a field where you're not really feeling good, that's probably not your thing. Yeah.
So I'm hearing maybe a good indicator of if you're tapping into your gifts is how you feel.
Yes. Yes, that, and also paying attention to when you do this thing or these things, how people react, what it does for other people. Because the thing is, when the gift is yours, but you're supposed to give it to the world. So when you do this thing, there is a reaction from the public, from the people that you do it for. You're supposed to pay attention to that too, because when you're good at something, people will tell you, and you'll hear it repeatedly. And if you're not on your own wavelength, if you're on somebody else's wavelength, you will just hear it and be like, "Oh yeah, I guess I am good at that," or whatever. But I got to do this thing over here because of XYZ reason. And so it's hard, because like when you have all the opinions in your ear and in your face, and people pushing you to do other things because it's easier, because they said you can't do this, again, then you get pulled further and further away from your real work. And you got to tap into what is it that makes me feel good as I move through the day. What are the things that I do with and for people that make them feel good, that they get benefits from, but that also make me feel good? That's where you got your answer. It's not just that you do this thing for you, because again, you're here in this life to serve your gift to the world, to make a change, to make a difference. And so when you're doing it, you will be told, you're so good at that. Can you do some more? Can you teach me how? All of the things I was talking about in the poem, that first line was real. They ask me over and over how I do it, where it comes from, and if I can teach. That is real. People always ask me how I do what I do. And so that's the stuff you have to pay attention to. Natural gifts. I mean, yes, you can go to school to learn a craft, and that's great. But you came into this world with natural abilities. Everybody has them. It's just that they're buried under life.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, one of the first signs is, does it feel good? What are things that make you feel good?
Yes.
And then a second step is, what is a form of service or upliftment for community that also feels good.
Yes.
And then third, as you start to do those two things, you'll start to notice people saying, wow, or you're really good at this, or how can I do what you're doing?
Right.
I dig it.
I dig it too. And here's the thing, when you're doing the thing and when you're talking about the thing, your whole demeanor changes. So, okay, if I can take it back for just a minute, before I really stepped into what I was here to do, I was having panic attacks. And so I studied acting. So I went to acting school, and I always thought I was going to be an actress. I mean, and I probably still will dabble in it. But I pursued that path, went to acting school for a while. But something was missing. And I couldn't figure out what it was at the time until I ended up, I went to a junior college, and I ended up in a writing class, creative writing class. And I wrote a short story. And that short story, it dawned on me that it would make a good movie. And so I taught myself how to write a screenplay, because I mean, it was back in like the late 90s. So kind of like before the advent of like all of our technology. And I didn't even have a computer back then. It was like, I had like a desktop publisher. Some people don't even know what that is. But I taught myself how to write a screenplay. I went to Borders Books and Music, which I don't even think exists anymore. I don't even know if we still have those, but you could go into Borders and just spend time in there reading. And so I went into the media section, and I pulled down all of they have shooting scripts. So actual movies that have been in the theater that you've probably seen. So like they had like The Green Mile and like all kinds of movies that I had actually seen. So I pulled all of the scripts off the shelf, and I sat and I read through them, and I looked at the format, and like I took notes, and I taught myself how to write a screenplay. And then I turned that short story into a screenplay. And while I was writing the screenplay, that's when the lights went on. It wasn't until 1999. I was 30 years old. I was 30. And the lights went on while I was writing that screenplay. And I went, oh my God. Oh, like, and I felt like, oh, this is it. Oh my God, I've been doing it. I knew then that I was supposed to be doing the writing, that the writing was the path. And I almost felt silly because I had been doing it my whole life, and I had been like trying to do all these other things over it. And it was always there. I was always doing it. But when I was writing that screenplay, it was called Love's Train. That's when I knew for sure. And ever since then, I've been absolutely sure. And I've been right. I was right. It was just, that was the biggest aha moment, was writing that screenplay and realizing how I felt when I was typing the words and, you know, getting into the characters and everything that I felt. I knew that I was on the path and I had discovered it. It wasn't like I found it per se. It was always there, but I had discovered the thing that was already there.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Whew. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Could we hear another one of your amazing poems?
Sure. Wow. So, okay. I'm trying to think. I wrote this poem recently. So being an independent artist is really difficult. And there are so many things that people who aren't artists or who are not independent artists, there are a lot of things that people think they know, but they don't. And so frequently I would have these conversations with people about the things that people don't know. And I did a feature in August, and there was another poet there from Atlanta, and we ended up in a discussion about that very thing. And the next day I started writing this poem. It's called Knowledge. What you know about not knowing when everybody else does? What you know about how that feel? What you know about waking up every morning, question marks creeping through your psyche about your journey, about where the support from people who said they would, ignored you when you asked, when of the next pay, about perseverance for breakfast, lunch, dinner, disappointment for a midnight snack. What you know about that being the only meal you got sometimes? What you know about a dozen cracks in your faith, about trying to glue them up with smiles and hope, about tears that sneak up on you when you're trying to push through, trying to hold on to your sanity, trying to push through the day. Make it be the one you can finally write home about. Sneak up and snatch the light right out your eyes. Make it so you can't even see the one at the end of the tunnel. Make your soul slip, fall, and shatter in the river that slides off your face. Tell me what you know about this bag of fuckets that keeps getting bigger, growing heavier by the week. So many that they poking holes in it, falling out and into your attitude some days. About walking around feeling like a tsunami on a sunny 90-degree day, like a 10-car pileup too convoluted to free yourself from. What you think you know? Huh? You don't know like I know about purpose, passion, sacrifice, about trust and destiny, about loyalty to your spirit, to your craft, about the repo man, about eviction, about standalone spirit in the midst of side eyes and critical commentary, about remembering what you had, wondering if all this is worth losing it for. You don't know. You don't know a damn thing about this. You don't know about the power of purpose, kind of hold it has on you, how it make your spirit swoon and sway every time you think about it. Breathe new life into you whenever you touch it, whenever you bless people with it. How all you want to do is be up under it all day at all costs, like a new lover, got you whipped. You are its bitch in the most gratifying way. Hell yeah, you take orders. Gladly. Jump high as it wants. Giggle like a silly, lovesick child when you do. This purpose, nothing else matters when you're in it. Distractions have you salty because the sensation it gives you is the sweetest, greatest joy you ever feel. Joy that can't nobody take from you. This that DNA crack. Leave you with that healthy high. All natural drug you came from the womb with, running through your bloodstream. Narcotic that give you all your act right. Your greatest shine, finest temperament. The only drug to cure what ails you. Can't nothing but death keep you from it. Ain't no pain, no stress, no obstruction wicked enough to derail that train. That train go regardless. Ain't no escaping this thing. Ain't no walking away because you frustrated because the road bumpier than a 5-mile construction zone. Where you think you going? Where you running to? You think you about to dodge heredity? That ain't how this works. You can't leave. How you leave yourself? Where they do that at? This thing is home, emotional security, comfort food, extra helpings of dessert, shelter from cerebral storms, even when it is the storm, even when it's disorder and spilled milk. Oh, you can cry. Go on ahead and cry over that milk. But I bet you clean it right on up. Get right on back to task because you're here with this purpose conjoined through all your numbered days to let it serve you so you can serve it to the world with all the bells and whistles it lets you create till all who need it from you get it, till you get called home. Now, tell me what you think you know about this double-edged sword, this purpose all up in you that you can't undo. What you know about that daily keep on? About the strength it takes, the balls you got to grow, the spiritual judo you need to know to overthrow the devil on this path every day so you can deliver these goods to the people, for yourself, leave your mark, convenience these lives, heal these hearts, soothe these minds, and show up every time looking like you never even broke a sweat. Nah, you don't know. You don't know a damn thing about this.
Woo! That was a good one. That one fires you up.
Thank you.
Motivated.
I'm glad. Thank you.
What about for that one? What when you recite that one for audiences, what's the reaction usually like?
Some people cry. I cried when I wrote it because it's probably, all my poems in some way are a personal, thing, but that particular poem speaks to everything, everything along my journey that I've dealt with, that I've felt, the highs and the lows. And I love that poem because it really speaks to the truth of the journey. How when you are on a path, and sometimes if your path is an artist, as your path is an artistry, you don't know what's going to happen every day. Sometimes it's just not secure out here. You know what I mean? But you can't leave. Like, just like I said, you can't dodge heredity. This is it. Like, whatever you came into this world to do is what you came to do, and you can't leave it. You can't get away from it. You can try, but it's going to follow you because it is you. You are it. So you can't get away from it. And so I think there's a level of acceptance. I mean, because I have plenty of days where I wish this were not the craft for me. It's hard. Sometimes I wish I could just do a regular field, be an accountant, be a doctor. But not that being a doctor is easy, but I'm saying, like, an artist, you gotta have some thick skin for this work, for this field, for all of these unknowns. You know what I mean? And yeah, I sometimes I wish that I had been given a different gift, but I haven't. And so there's this level of acceptance that, okay, this is it, and I can't leave it, and so I'm never going to leave it. Like, I'm not even going to go down that path. And I think that when I do that poem, people who are on the same journey, of course, it moves them. And then the people who are not on that journey have a better understanding of what we're dealing with. They're never going to know per se, but just by me telling that story, the way that I'm telling it, it lets people know there's a lot more to this than meets the eye. So
that's amazing. I appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you.
I feel like this whole interview has been a spiritual experience, and
well, see, this is what I came here to do in this life. So and so this is exactly my point. Like, it's a natural thing, and it's not. Yes, you have to work at it, like, you have to hone it, but it's not something, these things that I do are not things that I trained for, like spending years and years in school to learn to do. There is always a level of training within whatever field you're in. I didn't, you still have to study your field, but I'm saying when you're operating from a natural gift, you just have a knack. You just do it. And I've always been doing it. It was just a matter of looking at it and accepting it and embracing it. And so if I can my part of my journey is helping people embrace theirs, pay attention to it and accept it and embrace it, and then walk in the path. Because I remember how I felt when I wasn't walking in the path. And I remember how awful I felt. And I really don't like to see people suffering that way. And there are so many people suffering in the same way that I was. Panic attacks and, sobbing on the freeway. And it's a terrible life when you're not doing your path, when you're not doing your true life mission. And so that's why I write about the things I write about. That's why I do these poems and write these self-help books. And I have Honor the Spirit, which is my life consulting business, which I've been growing for the last couple of years, and really trying to help people step into themselves if they're willing. It's a choice. You can't just step into yourself haphazardly. You have to decide, okay, I'm ready to make whatever sacrifices, and there are sacrifices. I'm ready to let go of whatever belief systems I have that are, telling me I can't do this thing that I love, or, you know what I mean? So there's a lot to stepping into yourself. And that's why I do the work that I do, because I want to help people be able to get there so they can be happy, so they can feel this thing that I feel. Everyone should feel like this.
Yes,
but everybody doesn't.
Yes, indeed. Woo. And For the folks listening, we know that if you're a regular listener, you know that Charlene must be our feature for this Sunday's live and online expression session. So if you've been enjoying this, we would love for you to come join us live Sunday, February 18th at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 p.m. Central Time, 3 p.m. if you're on the East Coast, 8 p.m. if you're in London, 9 p.m. if you're in Nigeria. So Charlene's going to be the feature for that. So this is just a taste of the experience you're going to get. And one thing I wanted to ask you as we're getting ready to sign off is the theme that's going to be for our writing workshop on Sunday was selected by Charlene, and it is perseverance. What spoke to you about perseverance?
Probably, again, it's about just whatever situation that you're in, especially situations that seem to drag on and on, that you just having a hard time getting out of, and you're trying to get to the other side and you want to give up. Perseverance is key, because you just, what I know for sure, because I've seen it so many times, is that right now everything might be crap, but in 5 minutes everything can change. In 2 minutes, 30 seconds. And I know that when you decide to give up, then you don't get 5 minutes from now. You don't get 30 seconds from now. You know what I'm saying? And so perseverance is the key in all of this. And of course that takes courage. But again, like, if you don't persevere, if you don't push, you're not going to be able to know what's on the other side. You can't get to the other side without perseverance. So that's what I've had to do in my entire career, is persevere, and I'm pretty good at it. If I'm telling you, if you want to learn that art, the art of perseverance, be an artist. Be an artist, because it will definitely teach you how to persevere if you're open.
You said perseverance takes courage, and here at the celebration, this is and therefore the celebration's year of courage.
Oh, nice.
So my intention is to have just everyday conversations with people about courage. So as one of our last questions, what is courage?
A choice. I mean, everything is a choice, but again, when you're thinking about moving through challenges, there is a choice that you make to like really step in and go wherever the journey takes you. And courage and perseverance are cousins, of course, they're related. But I think that overall courage is the decision to show up for yourself and whatever the situation that you're in asks you to do in order to get to the other side. And you can't predict what those things are. And that's what's special about courage, is that when those things come up, there's your moment where you get to decide, okay, and courage is not about not being scared. That's not what courage means. Courage is feeling all the things that you feel and still deciding, no, I'm going to step in it. I'm going to show up. I'm going to show up for this thing. I'm going to show up for myself and go on this journey, whatever the journey is. So that's kind of what I feel like courage amounts to.
As we're getting ready to reluctantly say goodbye, did you have one more poem you wanted to share as a farewell?
Yeah. So I think I'll do Shed. My mom loves that poem. And it's self-explanatory. Shed, like excess mental weight, the pounds of their cruelty, the way they glare, and you silently agree. Criticism from people not wearing your skin, but calling foul for the way you look in it, carry it, behave in it. Shed like dank clothes, the rubble from your storms of persecution. Sidestep the ominous pond of disapproval puddled at your feet. Like burdensome debt, shed your subscriptions to fear, loathing, discontent of your life, your body, perceived lack ofs, shoulda alreadys, shouldn't have dones, wanna but can'ts. Shed the you adopted and grew, fed lies to based on their view, their spew. The you scorn because you think what they shout is gospel, and now what you are is pawn, lurching to their slanderous cadence, not champion of your magnitude. Peep how your arms flit erratically, legs jerk, how you beat and kick yourself to shame with their commentary. Parrot the script they write for you to their delight. This isn't really the role you intend to keep playing in your movie, is it? You're the star, so get busy rewriting. Start a health phrase diet, double portions daily for your emaciated self-reverence. Gorge on them. Get fat on a superior assessment of yourself. Feast unapologetically on mouthfuls of your own delicious story of a you look at proudly, smile at, celebrate and respect. Can't get enough of flaws and all and say, damn, it's great to be me. Then toss up the middle finger deuces and shed all the whole and partial fucks you give about the people whose only desire was to make sure you never gave a single fuck about yourself. And there's shed.
Woo! Nothing like saying fuck with a smile.
Well, you know.
I love that.
Yes, with a smile.
If folks want to reach out to you and tell you how much they appreciated this, connect with you, buy your books, reach out for some life coach consulting, where could they do that?
The best place to do that is at hustledivaspeaks.com. hustledivaspeaks.com. That's like the hub. I have 3 websites, but if you start there, it'll take you everywhere. So you can buy my books on hustledivaspeaks.com, read all about my journey and get a taste of some of the other things that I do. So yes, you can contact me through there, hustledivaspeaks.com.
Wonderful. And if folks are driving and like, oh, I can't write that down quick enough, of course, all the show notes with links for Charlene are on my website, tomerl.com/blog, or if you want to go directly to the show notes for this episode, tomerl.com/hustledeva, HUSTLEDIVA, tomerl.com/hustledeva. All the links to say hi to Charlene and to register for this Sunday's expression session are all there. Yeah. Anything you'd like to share in closing?
I just want to encourage people to step into who they really are, and make the decision to do it regardless of what other people say about that decision, because people are always going to have something to say about whatever you decide to do for you. And I write a lot about that. So just make the choice to step into who you really are.
And I want to encourage folks to make that last 10 seconds you just heard your alarm clock. Download this, loop it, and when you wake up, have that be your alarm clock. So when you wake up, that's how you start the day right there, because
I love it.
The essence of it.
Thank you.
Charlene, this has been absolutely amazing. I really want to appreciate you, affirm you, and really share my gratitude that you've taken time out of your day to come here and share your gifts and your essence with all of us. We're all better people, and our souls have evolved better because of it. So thank you so much. Thank you. I'm really glad to be here, and I'm so grateful that you had me on the show. This was great. My pleasure. And look forward to you being our feature on Sunday. I hope you join us. Yes. We are here sending you love and gratitude. And as always, we're wishing you peace and blessings. Bye.